All right, welcome back. It's Trial Tuesday, and today we are talking about 21-year-old Dylan Roof, the man accused of opening fire last week at Emmanuel AME Church, killing 9 innocent people. Attorney David Ayler is here with what's next for the suspect from a procedural standpoint. David, glad to have you here, and a lot of eyes obviously want to hear, what you're going to explain to us right now. So he's charged with murder, obviously, behind bars. What is next in this process?
Well, obviously, the charges he have right now are state charges. So they're state of South Carolina charges. They're here in the Ninth Circuit because it happened in Charleston County. So that would put Solicitor Scarlett Wilson in charge of the case. However, what can happen is it potentially can be adopted by the federal government, and then that would become a U.S. attorney's case. We've heard a lot of talk about hate crimes and things like that. That would be if it moves to the federal side. If it stays on the state side, it would be no different than any other normal state case as far as the procedural. First thing would be he'd be allowed to have a preliminary hearing. His attorney would request that, and at that hearing they determine if there's enough information to bound the charge over, moving forward to the next situation where it then goes to the solicitor's office permanently, to move forward on the case. And a lot of times a preliminary hearing is also used for a fact finding. I think it's pretty obvious here that there was enough probable cause, and that's what that hearing shows, that it would be moved over, but they may still have it just to gain more information on it.
I think the biggest question here is death penalty. Is that what they're going to pursue with him?
I think that's something that will be decided along the way. Obviously, we've heard an outcry for that, understandably, on all different levels.
I mean, somewhere his uncle said that he would be the one to push the button himself.
Right.
Powerful words.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think what's important for people to understand is that whether it stays in the state of South Carolina and it stays in the jurisdiction of the state of South Carolina or becomes a United States government federal case, either way the option of the death penalty is there. There are obviously some states in the union that do not have the death penalty, so it would have to be transferred and be adopted by the federal government to be a death penalty case. That's not the situation here.
South Carolina obviously does have the death penalty.
And with that many deaths, I mean, I think it's apparent that you would think that would be the direction they go.
Sure. How long is this going to take? How long is he going to sit in jail before we start to see this move along in some action?
Well, he has the ability to try and get a bond. The bond could not be set by the magistrate judge, the initial bond, because of the murder charges. So he could attempt to get a bond. It's unlikely due to the circumstances that that bond would be granted, because they look at flight risk, but also danger to the community, which would stand out here. But as far as how long it would take to go, right now the investigation, I'm sure, is still ongoing. And that might be confusing for some people, because you think, well, they found him, he clearly is admitted. Right, but there's so many other things that could come into play, whether they be charges more for him, or if they look at it and there's more information out there that we're not aware of as the public yet, that maybe other people in some way aided him. I've not seen any of that. I think that would still be premature to look at. So really right now we're just at the initial stages of the investigation, even though he already has been taken to jail. So we're looking at, I wouldn't be surprised if it was over a year. However, sometimes in cases like this, you will see them fast track it, and it could be shorter.
So he could sit in jail for a year before anything moves forward.
Potentially, but it may be just with the hurt and the victims and everybody that's been so consumed by it that they would try to move it down the track a little faster than a normal case.
Exactly. I saw on social media a lot of people saying, who would represent this man? Who could do that? Just explain how that process happens with a court-appointed attorney.
Well, basically, anytime that you have a case here in the state of South Carolina, it's true on the federal side too, that you've been charged and you have the potential of jail time, even up to the minimum of 30 days, you can be appointed an attorney based upon what your income is, and if you can get a public defender, meaning that they can show that you're indigent and can't afford an attorney yourself. And initially also sometimes in the early stages, a lawyer will be appointed. In this situation, the public defender's office comes into play, and that's why Ashley Pennington was there. He's the head of the public defender's office for Charleston County. And basically in the way that the Constitution works is everybody has the right to a fair trial and they have a right to a defense. And if you can't afford that defense, they do supply it, and that's what we have here. This is a 21-year-old young man. I've not heard anything about him, but usually as far as his economic background himself, but usually when you have a lot of young people, it's just based upon their own income and their own worth. Doesn't matter if there's relatives or family members come in. So you see a lot of times public defenders come into play.
And obviously with the high profile of this case, you're going to be discussing this for years to come, correct?
Right, just from different angles, and I think we'll see so much more information come out from it, and hopefully at some point start giving people some more answers.
Attorney David Ayler, thank you
so much,
and we will see you next Tuesday right here in Low Country Live. We've got much more with right here, so stay with us after the break.